Well, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has arrived in Mexico City and has held a press conference with President Enrique Peña Nieto. Trump has stirred controversy throughout his campaign, calling Mexicans living in the United States criminals and promising to build a wall between the two countries. But on his visit, he attempted to strike a more diplomatic tone.
I was straightforward in presenting my views about the impacts of current trade and immigration policies on the United States. As you know, I love the United States very much, and we want to make sure that the people of the United States are very well protected.
TRT World's Kilmeny Ducart has been following the story from Washington. She joins us now live. Hi, Kilmeny. Why did Nieto decide to meet with Trump? He wasn't obligated to do so, and it's angered a number of Mexican senators. So why bother after the very nasty words they've exchanged in the past?
Well, you're absolutely right. It was an extraordinary move by Mexico's president to not just invite Trump, but both candidates. And certainly Trump's acceptance might have been a shock to some, given the comments that he's made about Mexico, pledging that he will build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. He's referred to undocumented immigrants in this country as criminals and rapists. But also there's been words on Peña Nieto's side comparing Trump to Hitler and Mussolini. So the fact that these two were able to sit down and find some common ground, I think, was surprising to a lot of people. But they said that they had a very open, honest, and productive conversation. They did find some common ground in all of this, saying, actually, Peña Nieto saying that he supported providing additional infrastructure and security to the border. But Trump answering a question, of course, about who's going to pay for the wall, said that that wasn't discussed between the two. And this kind of goes back to the original goal of the Trump campaign accepting this meeting with Peña Nieto. And that was that they essentially wanted to maybe possibly pave the way for future negotiations. And of course, it was an opportunity for Trump to appear more presidential. Certainly, you would ask yourself why Peña Nieto would want to invite both of these candidates to Mexico. And I think that a lot of leaders around the world, Andrea, are faced with the prospect that either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. And given the rhetoric that we've seen coming out of the Trump campaign and from Trump supporters about their stance on immigration, this was an opportunity for Peña Nieto to perhaps find some common ground with Trump and get Trump to soften his stance, of course, just hours before he's set to deliver this major speech on his immigration policies.
Yeah, and aside from immigration, he also went into a very important issue that's near and dear to Trump's heart, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which he thinks has much more benefited, has benefited Mexico much more than it has the United States. Tell us a little more about how they found common ground on that.
Well, Peña Nieto really sat down with Donald Trump and explained why NAFTA was beneficial to not only Mexico, but also to the United States. But Trump, of course, in the press conference following their statements, said that NAFTA is something that's 22 years old. And he actually said that it needed to be improved. He actually didn't use the words repealed or taken out or some of the the terms he said about, stopping the TPP and other trade agreements that have hurt the U.S. But that is something that they seem to appear that, if they had to work together on it, they could. And of course, they talked about the fact that the problems that Trump has said with regard to drugs coming across the border, crime coming across the border, Peña Nieto and Donald Trump both acknowledged that that was not a one-way street. In fact, Mexico's president said that there are a lot of issues of weapons coming in from North America and cash flow from the drug trade that puts a stress on there. So I think that this was a good opportunity for Trump to see more of Mexico's side of things. And, as Kellyanne Conway, Trump's campaign manager, had promised today, this appears to be a productive conversation between the Republican nominee and Mexico's president.
Okay, Kilmeny Ducart, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for that. As always, live from Washington.